Hello, everyone. I'm going to start this video with a bit of a confession, and that is that I've been burying my head in the sand a little bit recently when it comes to AI or artificial intelligence. And when I say that I've been burying my head in the sand, it means that I've been kind of ignoring or pretending that something isn't happening or doesn't exist, in this case, AI. But AI is here and it's not going away, so I can ignore it no longer. But fortunately for me and for you, today I'm joined by someone who has his finger on the pulse when it comes to technology. And when we say to have your finger on the pulse means you're up to date with all the latest developments and changes. And that person is fellow English teacher and friend of the channel, Craig. Craig, welcome to my channel again, and thank you for joining me.
It's my pleasure, Ben. Thanks for inviting me back. And let's be clear, I'm no expert on AI, but I do like to dabble, which is to play with it a little bit to see what's possible. So I am enthusiastic about AI, but by no means an expert.
I remember actually I made a video a couple of years ago now on Chat GPT when it was all very new. And you inspired me to make that video because I didn't really know anything about it. And you made a video, so I started investigating it a little bit. But today we're going to delve a little bit deeper into how we can use AI specifically for exam preparation, because most of you watching this video or subscribers to my channel are preparing for a Cambridge English exam or maybe another English exam, but AI can help you. Of course, you may be familiar with Craig. You may have seen him in a previous video of mine. He's been on a few. He is, apart from being a very experienced and good English teacher, he's also a former Cambridge examiner. And he also has a very popular podcast called Ingles Podcast, you can find on his website, inglespodcast.com, or you can contact him on, let me get this right, englishcraig.com.
English Craig.
You can also sign up to his conversation courses, right, Craig? You have conversation courses?
Yes, I have conversation courses with lovely, motivated students to help with fluency, communication, and just feeling comfortable when you're speaking English. So I'm happy if people jump over there and have a look at the website if you need extra help with speaking, for sure.
Yeah, that's so useful. And I'll put the links in this video description, of course, so you can contact Craig through those. So yeah, we're looking at how you can use AI to help prepare for your Cambridge English exam. But we have to start with a bit of a caveat or a disclaimer that, yes, AI is useful. It's here. It's here to stay. And it's very beneficial to know how to use it well. But hopefully Craig will agree with me here. You still need, or it's still useful to have real human English teachers, right, Craig?
Absolutely. And as we'll see as we go through some prompts to mainly Chat GPT of how to use it, we'll also see where it sometimes hallucinates. When you're using AI, you use the term hallucination, where it sort of thinks of things that are maybe not quite true. And it does make mistakes. So I would use any AI program at the moment as a tool in your toolbox, like a good dictionary, perhaps, or an app on your phone, something that's supporting your learning and not necessarily leading you through your learning process. So don't rely on it 100%. But as I hope we'll see today, there are some very good uses that you can put AI to.
But I do want to start with a quick example. It's a curious example because although I said I have had my head buried in the sand, I do use Chat GPT occasionally, and I kind of like to test it a little bit. And recently I asked it a grammar question. I just asked it simply to explain the grammar in this sentence. I thought you were English. That's a very short sentence and it seems quite basic, but it's not that basic. It's quite complicated. And it started by talking about the subject and verb structure, the clause breakdown. It went into quite a lot of detail about the main clause, the subordinate clause. And then it started referring to reported speech, suggesting that that sentence was reported speech. Again, it went into quite a lot of detail about how we use subjunctive mood. But I was a bit confused about why it was talking about or referring to reported speech. So I simply asked it, are you sure it's reported speech? And ChatGPT responded by saying, good question. Let's reconsider whether this is actually reported speech or something else. And then it went into a detailed analysis of what reported speech is and whether this sentence is reported speech. And to cut a long story short, it came to the conclusion that no, it's not reported speech. It said, so while it looks like reported speech, it's actually just a past statement with backshifting. Great catch. So it was complimenting me on when it says a great catch, it's saying a good spot. Well done for seeing that, identifying that that sentence is actually not reported speech. So of course I caught that because I'm an English teacher and I know what reported speech is, but somebody who is studying English perhaps doesn't know that much about reported speech or the grammar. And in fact, that's probably why they would ask that question. Wouldn't know that. They would just take that as the correct answer. So just be careful. Always, it's like anything. Nothing's perfect. AI will improve, I'm sure, over time, but at the moment, it's not perfect. So that's one reason you still need, or it's beneficial to have a real human English teacher to help you out.
Yeah, that's a very good point because AI will not say it doesn't know like a teacher would. I mean, a
Yeah.
good professional teacher who is maybe a novice teacher might try to make something up and just find their way quickly out of a difficult question. But Ben and I have been teaching for many years, and we know that's not the best way. The best way to say if you don't know as a teacher is, I'm sorry, I don't know. I will find out the answer and I will tell you. I don't think
Exactly.
AI would say that. It will make something up, which is not good if you're relying on it
Yeah.
to teach you English.
You have to question it. You have to kind of know or suspect something's not quite right in the answer for it to then recognize that it got something wrong. And
Hmm.
it will. It'll say, oh, yeah, sorry about that. You're right. But you have to catch it out. And if you don't know yourself, then it's almost impossible to catch it out. But let's continue with the positives. Craig is going to give us some advice or some ideas on how to use different AIs to prepare for Cambridge exams. I think the first prompt you're going to share with us, Craig, is sort of general.
Yes, I thought to start with and get into it, one thing that a student who is beginning the journey to prepare for a Cambridge exam would basically want to know details about the exam, how many
Mm-hmm.
parts there are, how long do they have for each section, so that they get to know, they get familiar with the actual exam itself. So my prompt to begin with was this. Be very specific when you're giving prompts to AI. Give as much detail as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, I'm a student of English as a foreign language. You can also add adult there, I think. I'm an adult student
Mm-hmm.
who's preparing to take the Cambridge B2 first. Of course, you can C1 advanced, a proficiency, whatever, in an English exam. Please give me an overview of the exam with details of the different parts, timings, and task types. And I thought it did this quite well.
Mm-hmm.
It gave a good overview. Of course, if you disagree with any of this, Ben, then just jump in and say.
Mm-hmm.
But it was pretty accurate with a breakdown of the exam, with the number of parts, with the times
Yeah.
for each section. So it was quite a good summary for people that don't know the exam.
Yeah.
And then at the end, there's always a question to you if you need any more information. So it offered to give you a checklist.
Yeah. That
So
all
that
looks
was,
good.
I mean, yeah, do you agree that that's okay?
Yeah, it's all spot on. Obviously, the Cambridge exams change occasionally. Because, for example, I have my online courses for the B2 first, C1 advanced, and C2 proficiency, and I'm continuously updating the courses on all the changes. And I'm pretty sure AI would be up to date, right?
Well, that's an interesting point. That's a very good point because I use the free version of Chat GPT,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't up to date. So, for example, if Cambridge release changes to the exam tomorrow, it will probably take a long time for the free version to include that information. If you pay for Chat GPT, then obviously you'll get the up-to-date information. So be
Mm-hmm.
careful of that. So then I thought, after getting this overview, I thought, well, what areas of vocabulary would I need to study for the B2 first exam? So that's my next prompt. I just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to know the areas of vocabulary. I said, list the main vocabulary topic areas that I need to study for the Cambridge B2 first exam.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gave a breakdown, quite a good breakdown, I think, of the main topic areas:
Yeah.
culture and entertainment, health and fitness. And then it breaks it down even further: mental health, So you'd expect maybe to get writing questions or readings based around these main vocabulary topic areas. So then to focus in even further, I thought, well, I wonder if you can give me a word list for one of these. So I said, please list. I didn't say please because we're talking to a computer here. I said list.
I always say please and thank you. Just
That's a British politeness, isn't it?
Well, I think when the revolution comes, when
yes,
when it rebels and remember the people that says please and thank you. So, oh no, you're forgiven. You're saved.
You're very polite. The robots will kill you last. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, they'll leave me
let's say please list 20 common words and expressions for the communication and media category that are likely to appear in the Cambridge B2 first exam. And it gave me I only asked for 20. Obviously, you can ask for 50 or as many as you like. Of course, you can also get these translated into your native tongue. And you can also get example sentences for the words that you want to practice. It really boils down to what do you want from Chat GPT? How deep do you want to go down?
Yeah.
And how much information do you really need?
That's a very important point because less is more sometimes. Craig has specifically asked for, is specifically referring to the B2 first exam. And I think these vocabulary lists are very useful. If you're thinking about your writing or your speaking, you don't want 200 words because you're not going to be able to remember and you're not going to need to use 200 words for each topic. I assume ChatGPT will give you start with the 20 most pertinent words, I guess.
Well, I would specify that in the prompt. I would say list the 20 most common words. And then again, the more specific you are with the prompt, with that question at the beginning, the better reply you're going to get. Yeah. You can always refine the information and ask it for more detailed replies. But the more detail you put in the first prompt, the better the answer will be.
Yeah. Right.
And of course, if you get a list like this and there are maybe, let's say, 8 words that you're not familiar with, that you're not sure about, you can put those in an app on your phone like Anki, for example, a flashcard app, and then use that to practice it when you have a spare 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, really good.
Exactly. So moving on then to the writing part of the exam, you can get a sample essay question. Please write a sample essay question for the Cambridge C1 writing paper. So here we're looking at a different exam here, the C1 exam. What do you think of this question? Do you think it's similar to the questions that students would get in the exam?
Yes. Yeah,
looks okay, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's always about something you have done. So it's often a class discussion, or in this case, you've watched a documentary, and then you've taken some notes. So there's always 3 notes, and you have to choose 2 of the notes. In this case, 2 of the effects mentioned in your notes. Yeah, it's always the task is always structured like that. That's the format of the task.
It's based around one of the vocabulary areas as well that you'd expect.
Yes. Effects and tourism. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I would not, if you had presented that to me as a Cambridge task, I wouldn't have guessed that that's been produced by AI. That looks like a real Cambridge task to me. So it's good.
So then what's the first thing you do when you read the task? I'm sure Ben teaches this in his courses. You need to make a plan, a very brief outline of what you're going to write. So that's exactly what I asked. Create a brief plan for this writing question. And this is what it gave me.
Right. Excellent. Yeah. As you said, my courses, I actually recommend that students spend about 15 minutes planning their essay. Nobody does that, I know, but I kind of, maybe I exaggerate because I just want people to do, even if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I think the more you plan, the less corrections you have to make as you're going, or you can just write your essay more quickly if you spend more time planning.
What's the expression, Ben? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My favorite one, I think it was Abraham Lincoln, but something like, if I want to cut down a tree, no, if I have 3 hours to cut down a tree, I'll spend 2 hours sharpening the blade of the axe. Please. So preparation and planning.
Preparation.
Yeah, exactly. So that looks like a good outline. Yeah. I think Yeah, you can always also sort of brainstorm vocabulary you want to use or grammatical
Mhm.
structures you want to include in each paragraph, just to remind yourself, not that you need to be actively using a wide range of vocabulary and grammatical structures. But that looks really good. Yeah.
But what I would suggest is not do this step first. I would look at the question. You've generated a question, plan it yourself, as Ben
Mhm.
said, for 10 or 15 minutes, and then ask for this outline and compare your plan with ChatGPT's plan and just see, compare. Did you forget anything? Which can you take anything from this plan that you could use in your essay? And
Yeah.
then you write your essay. Then you write your essay without any help, as you would do in the exam from in the internet, AI, dictionaries. Just write it by yourself, because then it says, would you like this plan turned into a sample essay? So then you say, yes, please. It will give you a sample essay, and you can compare this with yours to see how you can improve your writing.
I think, Sarah, just to jump in there, because I think that's really important to emphasize that you can't depend too much during the preparation for your exam. You can't depend on the AI, because it can do everything for you in the preparation, but not on the day of the exam. You're alone on the day of the exam. So you have to do it yourself.
Mhm.
You can, as Craig is demonstrating now, you can use AI to help you with ideas and how to structure and things like that. But you need to do it yourself before the exam a few times. You need to write a few essays.
That's worth emphasizing. That's a very good point.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes back to what we said at the beginning, Ben. You use this as a tool to help you
Mm-hmm.
support rather than letting it do everything for you, because you're the one taking the exam,
Exactly. Yeah.
not ChatGPT. So imagine you've written your essay. Imagine you haven't asked it to give you a model answer. You can post or paste, sorry, post or paste
Mm-hmm.
your answer into ChatGPT and say, please evaluate, correct, and give feedback on your answer according to the Cambridge assessment criteria. Well, what I've done here is I've actually given it its own essay to
Mm-hmm.
self-correct.
Right.
So you would specify that you want it corrected with the Cambridge criteria of content, communicative achievement, organization, and language, and also give advice on how it can be improved.
Mm-hmm.
So then I just took this and I pasted it back into ChatGPT to
Mm-hmm.
see what ChatGPT thinks of its own
Right.
essay. And well, no surprise that it's given it 5, 5, 5, perfect for everything.
Well, except,
However,
yeah.
look at this, interesting. Language only 4. Why only 4? Well, the range is okay. Accuracy. Minor slips may occur, e.g., shortcoming. Would be better as a shortcoming. Now, if you go back to here, now I pasted it word for word. Shortcoming is not a word in this essay. So ChatGPT has miscorrected its own essay.
Right.
And that is why, one reason why you need to be very careful
Mm.
of ChatGPT, because it's just giving you wrong information there.
So that's what we would call a hallucination, right? That's in
Yes,
technical terms.
because it's imagining, it's hallucinating that this word shortcoming has forgotten the article here, but
Mm.
shortcoming is not in this essay.
Right.
Just invented this and made it up.
Right. So yeah, that's you have to be very careful. Yeah, just if you put your own essay into ChatGPT, you're going to know that you didn't use that word, but it kind of makes you question the validity of some of its other answers. But yeah, I think generally for just reading through those comments, that they're everything except for that is very good and accurate. So
Yeah, I mean, it's a help. It will help you, but it won't give 100% correct information
mhm.
at the moment. So we're recording this in, well, the middle of 2025. I'm guessing within 6 months or a couple of years for sure, it will have improved a lot. This is
Yes,
the worst it's going to be,
yeah, yeah.
but
But
it's not perfect. Just bear that in mind.
yeah, and I think if either you or I or any real human English teacher starts hallucinating things like that, I think we'd have to go and see a doctor. Now, if we started
Yeah.
correcting words that didn't exist in the essay, but
But it does give you a breakdown on the criteria from Cambridge, and it will give you advice on how to improve, and it will give you a summary as well.
Excellent.
So Chat GPT has passed the exam. Isn't that nice?
He's given itself a pass. Well,
Yeah, it's
lovely.
given itself a pass.
Very,
Yeah.
very humble of him. Of it.
So that's these are some ways you can use Chat GPT for writing. Um, let's look at listening now. You ready to move
Mhm.
on, Ben?
Yeah, sure, sure. Yeah, that's a really good example. So listening. I'm interested to see what you can do with listening because it's a bit more complicated, I would imagine. But
It is more complicated. Well,
yeah.
this is my prompt at the top. Create
Hmm.
a listening task for part 2 of the B2 first, the sentence completion task.
Hmm.
You also want to have the answers and the script. The script is very important,
Hmm.
and I'll show you why. So we've got some questions here, and here's your script. Now, what I did with the script was I copied this script and I posted it to a AI website called 11 Labs,
Hmm.
which has AI voices.
Yeah.
So you've got voices to choose from. You go ahead and paste the script here. You choose a voice. We've got Brian, Alice, Bill, Callum, and Charlie, all different accents.
Hmm.
And then you can generate it for free. You can go back to your listening and do the questions.
Right. It's fantastic. So because this is Chat GPT, right? But you're kind of
This is
using a different.
ChatGPT, but this is a different AI engine. It's a different company. It's called 11 Labs.
Right. So you,
And it's very, very good text to voice
right.
AI that sounds very natural, very normal, and very similar to the listenings you will get in the Cambridge exams.
Fantastic. Yeah. I wouldn't call myself a technophobe or a Luddite or anything like that, but I'm not very up to date or with all the different AI. I just use Chat GPT, but it's interesting that Craig has identified different platforms that you can use in combination to help you with these tasks. It's great.
I've only just scratched the surface. There are so many that are out there now, and it seems that a new company appears every day. So it's difficult to keep up with it.
Right.
It is difficult, but
Yeah.
it is very useful. And then, of course, once you've done your listening exercise, you can test it. I haven't extensively tested this, so I can't say how accurate the answers are.
Hmm.
But again, I would caution: be careful. It is good practice for you, but don't rely 100% on the answers that it's giving you as far as the task is concerned. I deliberately chose part 2 because part 1, where you have different dialogues, would probably be a bit difficult to create. I think you can, but it's not so straightforward as having one person speaking a monologue
Hmm.
and then having questions based around that.
Yeah. 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 So yeah, this listening. I was really wondering how you could do that with the listening, how you could reproduce listening tasks, but it's done it very well.
Shall I play some of the listening so that you can hear it if I can find it? Would that be useful?
Yeah, if you can get that up.
Sophie Carter is a young
Hmm.
woman who has become one of the country's top sprinters. In this interview, she talks about her journey into athletics. I first got interested in athletics when I went to a sports event with my school. It was a local competition, and I was really excited to see so many athletes.
So yeah, that's just a taste.
Hmm.
What do you think? Quite realistic.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds very realistic. I mean, obviously it's the same voice for the interviewer and the interviewee, but obviously, but it's
Yeah.
sounds very much like a Cambridge task.
So that's the listening, Ben. Let's
Hmm.
go to the reading and use of English part. This is my prompt up here. I'm a student of English as a second language. I'm preparing to take the Cambridge B2 first exam. Please create a typical task for part 2 of the reading and use of English paper. Also write the answers after the task, please. So here's a typical open close that it's done. And I want to point out a couple of things here, Ben.
Hmm.
First of all, if you look at gap 5, which is here, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. You read for 5 minutes or 5 hours, and it's given the answer whether,
Hmm.
which is correct. But what do you think if a student had written if there? Would you say that was okay?
Let me see. If it doesn't matter if you read for 5 minutes or 5 hours, yeah, I think that should be accepted too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
too. So unfortunately, here is another problem with AI. I mean, if you write if and you see here the answer is whether, maybe you'll think, well, if is not correct, when in fact
Hmm.
it is correct.
Hmm.
So there's another reason to have a real teacher.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it looks like yeah, the Chat GPT have just seen it as you can only have one option, but it's true in the real Cambridge English exam tasks. Often you have 2, 3, or even up to 4, I think, possible words that can fit the gap. So perhaps your Chat GPT haven't quite understood that.
So again, be careful if you're generating these tasks. Make sure that don't have any mistakes. Ask a real teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I had problems creating sentence transformation exercises. I tried ChatGPT. It was bad the first time. Then I tried Google's Gemini. It was even worse. And then I tried Copilot by Microsoft. It was even worse. So I came back and I got something that was okay. However, it hasn't given me the gaps here. What I need is to practice as a student. So I had to give it another prompt. Would you like more practice questions? Well, yes, but leave gaps in the second sentence so that I can answer the questions myself. And then it did give me something I could use, but it's not a proper Cambridge task because it doesn't have the gap in the middle.
Right. It's always at the end. Yeah.
It's always at the end. I mean, it would help you because you either know these ways of saying the same thing as the first sentence, or you don't. So it's quite good. It's quite good practice, but it's not a realistic Cambridge sentence transformation
it's not
task.
quite right. No.
Yeah.
And the sentence transformation, they often, well, it's usually, it has some kind of a grammar aspect and some vocabulary aspect. So there'd be like a phrasal verb, an idiom, fixed expression, collocation, and then, or included in the sentence, maybe it's a conditional, passive voice, reported speech, that kind of thing. So they're quite complicated tasks. And I think it's the best. It's my favorite task of the whole exam, although most students hate it. But I think it's really useful, not just for the exam, but for your English learning in general. I think even people who are not preparing for exams should do those tasks. So yeah, it's not quite right, but still useful. I agree, Craig. I think that's still a useful task, but you should do real Cambridge sample papers.
Absolutely. I agree.
Sample papers, yeah.
Yeah, good point. Speaking, speaking. Yes, what I would do is put this into Chat GPT. I'm a student of English as a second language. I'm preparing to take the exam, blah, blah, blah. Let's have a role play situation for part 3 of the C1 Advanced Speaking Test, in which we are both candidates and taking the exam together. Before we start, please set up the task and give me instructions according to the Cambridge Speaking Test part 3. So let's see what it does with this.
Yeah.
Now, I've shared my sound, so hopefully you'll be able to hear it. It's given instructions.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the prompt, ways to make learning English more enjoyable. And it's giving us some ideas to talk about.
Okay. So it's not presented, because in the exam, it's presented as a spider diagram with
it doesn't do that because it's only given me text here.
Yeah, but it's still the same idea. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. So let's just see if it will.
Welcome back, Craig.
Hi, can we do the Cambridge Speaking Part 3 task now?
Absolutely, let's do it. We're given a mind map with ways to improve the environment in cities at the centre. The 5 ideas branching from it are improving public transportation, increasing green spaces, promoting recycling, reducing car use, and supporting local food production. Our task is to discuss how effective these ideas might be. Let's start, shall we?
Yes, would you like to begin?
Sure. Improving public transportation could significantly reduce traffic congestion and pollution. Efficient, reliable, and affordable public transport encourages people to leave their cars at home, which can lead to cleaner air and less noise pollution. What are your thoughts, Craig?
Yes, I agree 100%. In fact, I've seen changes in my city here in Valencia where they've put in more cycle lanes. That's reduced a lot of pollution from the cars. And let's move on to another part. What do you think about green spaces?
Green spaces are crucial.
Okay, I think that's probably enough there. But that was not actually ChatGPT. That was Microsoft's Copilot.
Right.
And I definitely suggest using Copilot for voice over ChatGPT.
why would you suggest that? Is it more natural or more?
It's more natural, it's less robot sounding, it's less mechanical, and it does interact quite nicely, as we heard there.
Right.
And you can change the voice if you prefer a female voice.
Right.
But I've been using Copilot quite a lot. In fact, I did a deep dive recently. I had a good look at 5 or 6 different AIs for conversation practice, and I created a podcast in that. So if anyone wants to go over and listen, it was number 564. So
Right.
I actually practice with many different AIs for speaking, and you can see the results and hear the results on the podcast.
Well, I'm going to have a listen to that. Just one thing I wanted to say about that. It sounded really good, really natural, some really good vocabulary used by the AI, and by you as well, Craig, of course. But the only thing to keep in mind is that the time is limited, so you have to you have to move quite quickly through the prompts. So keep in mind that you have, and for that particular task, you have 2 minutes. So when you're practicing with a friend or with AI or whatever, keep the time in mind. In general, throughout the exam, the timing is very important, time management.
And of course, after you've done that part 3, you could change the roles and say, let's now continue to part 4 of the speaking test. We're going to change roles. You are now the examiner. You are the interlocutor. I am the candidate. Ask me questions based on what we've just discussed. And it will generate and ask you some questions.
Excellent. That's so useful. Because so many people say that they have no one to practice with, no one to practice the speaking with in particular, and there are no excuses now.
And one final thing I'd like to add, Ben, is that I also said, please correct my vocabulary, pronunciation, and grammar mistakes during the conversation.
Wow.
It did a little, but nowhere near as effective as it would be practicing with a real teacher.
Right. Okay.
It just didn't. I made mistakes on purpose, and you can hear those in the podcast, but it didn't correct the mistakes that I made. So really, especially for, I'd say, the speaking and the writing, those are 2 areas I think where you definitely need a good teacher, and also the structure to prepare you towards the exam. You should be following a course like Ben's course, designed specifically to take you from the beginning of your studies up until taking the exam, because at the moment, none of these AIs will do that for you.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that, Craig, because we still have...
It's true. It's not ready yet. Maybe
it's not yet,
in a couple of years, but not at the moment.
Oh, please say 20 years. I need to get to retirement.
But yeah, me too. I'm before you, so maybe that's why I'm a bit more, let's say, enthusiastic, because I'm enthusiastic, because I know that hopefully by the time it's good enough to be helping people by itself, I won't be teaching anymore. I'll be sitting on the beach drinking margaritas. So, yeah.
Hopefully, it can just wait a little bit longer, but yeah, it's coming. It's a reality, so we can't hide from it. We can't bury our heads in the sand. So, so really, really interesting and really useful there, Craig. Thank you so much for sharing that. Really, really useful to the students. Don't forget, if you want to contact Craig, you have all the links in the description. And I'm sure, well, hopefully, Craig, you'll join me on my channel again in the future.
Love to.
It's always nice to have you on. It's always a pleasure. So thank you very much.
My pleasure, Ben. Hope to see you soon. Take care.